The Republic by Plato was written around 375 BC and consists of 10 books. In this video, we talk about the 8th. In the last book, the 7th, Socrates finished describing the just city. Now he returns to the task of describing the 4 unjust constitutions of city and man. In addition to the aristocracy that we have been discussing for the past 6 books, and the philosopher king who rules this government, Socrates identifies 4 other city-man pairs. There is a timocracy and the honor-driven man who resembles and rules that sort of government. There is oligarchy, which resembles and is ruled by a man driven by his necessary appetites. There is democracy, which resembles and is ruled by a man driven by his unnecessary appetites. And then there is tyranny, which resembles and is ruled by a man driven by his unlawful appetites. Each of these constitutions is worse than the other, with a tyranny being the most wretched form of government, and the tyrannical man the most wretched of men. Unfortunately, since our city is human and all human things inevitably degenerate, these 4 unjust constitutions are not presented as mere theoretical possibilities, but they are presented as the inevitable stages of degeneration that the just city will pass through over time. Because the rulers of this just city will rely on their fallible sense perception in choosing the next generation of rulers, they will inevitably make mistakes over time. Soon, the wrong sort of people will occupy positions of power. These people will want to change things so that rulers can have private property and focus on wealth, while the good among the rulers will want to preserve the old order and focus on virtue. After some battling between these factions, the resulting constitution will be a compromise, a timocracy. To satisfy the bad faction, the rulers will distribute all the land and houses in the city as private property among themselves and enslave the producers as serfs. They will focus all their energy on making war and guarding against the enslaved producers. The rulers will still be respected, and the warring ruling class will not take part in farming, manual labor, or other money making ventures. They will eat communally and devote themselves to physical training and training for war. But they will be afraid to appoint wise people as rulers, choosing instead to be ruled by spirited but simple people who will be more inclined toward war than peace. Although they will desire money, the love of victory and honor will be predominant. The corresponding man is a man ruled by spirit. Such a man, Socrates explains, is produced in this way. He is the son of an aristocratic man who encourages the rational part of his son's soul. But the son is influenced by a bad mother and servants who pull him toward the love of money. He ends up in the middle, becoming a proud and honor-loving man. Next, the timocracy degenerates into an oligarchy. As the love of money and wealth grows, the constitution will change so that ruling is based entirely on wealth. Whoever has wealth and property above a certain amount will be allowed to take part in ruling, and whoever has less than this will have no say in government. This city has 5 faults according to Socrates. First, it is ruled by people who are not fit to rule. Second, it is not one city but 2. One city of rich people and one of poor. These 2 factions do not make up a single city because they are always plotting against one another and do not have common aims. Third, this city cannot fight a war because in order to fight, the rulers would have to arm the people, but they are even more afraid of the people who hate them than of outsiders. Fourth, it has no principle of specialization. The rulers also have peripheral money-making occupations. This city is the first to allow the greatest evil, which is people who live in the city without belonging to any class or having any role, people who are not producers, warriors, or rulers. This group includes beggars and criminals, who Socrates calls drones, and divides them into 2 sorts, harmless and dangerous. The corresponding man is a thrifty money maker. He is a timocrat's son and at first emulates him, but then some disgraceful and unfair mishap befalls his father. The son, traumatized, turns greedily toward money making and slowly amasses property again. His reason and spirit becomes his reason and spirit become slaves to appetite, as his only drive becomes the desire to make more money. Reason can only reason about how to make more money, while spirit only values wealth and has its sole ambition more wealth. This man has evil inclinations, but these are held in check because he is careful about his wealth. He does not want to engage in activity that would threaten him with the loss of what he has managed to build up from scratch. Next, the oligarchy declines into a democracy. The insatiable desire to attain more money leads to a practice of lending money at high interests. Many in the city are driven to utter poverty, while a few thrive. The impoverished still sit idly in the city, hating those with wealth and plotting revolution. The rich pretend not to notice the dissatisfied masses. Finally, the poor revolt, killing some rich and expelling the rest. They set up a new constitution in which everyone remaining has an equal share in ruling the city. They give out positions of power pretty much by lot, with no notice of who is most fit for what role. In this city, the guiding priority is freedom. Everyone is free to say what they like and to arrange their life as they please. There is complete license. We therefore find the greatest variety of character traits in this city. What we do not find is any order or harmony. No one occupies the appropriate roles. In order to describe the corresponding man, Socrates must explain the difference between necessary desires and unnecessary desires. Necessary desires are those we cannot train ourselves to overcome, the ones that indicate true human needs, for example, the desire for enough sustenance to survive. Unnecessary desires, on the other hand, are those which we can train ourselves to overcome. For example, desire for luxurious items and a very luxurious lifestyle. The oligarchic man is ruled by his necessary desires, but his son, the democratic man, is soon overcome by unnecessary desires. Whereas the father was a miser who only wanted to hoard his money, the son comes to appreciate all the lavish pleasures that money can buy. Manipulated by bad associates, he abandons reverence and moderation and begins to regard anarchy as freedom, extravagance as magnificence, and shamelessness as courage. When he is older, though, some of his virtues return and he is sometimes pulled toward moderation. Yet he thinks all pleasures, those of moderation and of indulgence, are equal, and he yields to whichever one strikes his fancy at the moment. There is no order or necessity to his life. In the last stage of degeneration, democracy, the most free city, descends into tyranny, the most enslaved. The insatiable desire for freedom causes the city to neglect the necessities of proper ruling. The drones stir up trouble again. In the democracy, this class is even fiercer than in the oligarchy because they usually end up becoming the dominant political figures. There are two other classes in the democracy other than the drones. There are those who are most naturally organized and so become wealthy, and then there are those who work with their hands and take little part in politics. The drones deceive both these other classes, inciting them against each other. They try to convince the poor that the rich are oligarchs, and they try to convince the rich that the poor are going to revolt. In their fear, the rich try to limit the freedoms of the poor, and in doing so come to resemble oligarchs. In response, the poor revolt. The leader of this revolt, the drone who stirs up the people, becomes the tyrant when the poor people triumph. He kills all the good people for fear that they will supplant him, then enslaves everyone else so that he can steal from them to support his lavish and extravagant lifestyle. He also needs to constantly make war to distract people from what he is doing. He must pander to the worst segments of society, the other drones, to make them his bodyguards. Socrates ends the eighth book without giving us the portrait of the corresponding man. This long psychological portrait is saved for the next book. So, this is it for the eighth book in the Republic. This was the eighth video in the series where I'm summarizing all the 10 books in the Republic. In the next video, I'll talk about the ninth book in the Republic. So, yeah, this is it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.